Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, let's go over what we actually want to achieve during this week. Can you just
Let's close the window.
close the window? So as all of you are painfully aware, we have two important dates, right? The 7th, where we have the feature freeze. So everything accumulates up until this point, right? Like we know that in the run-up to this date, people merge a lot of things. And once that is done, this period we call the freeze period, or this is where we create the stable branches, right? So from here onward, no new feature is being merged in the branches, and also we only pick the items that are broken or that we notice that something is not working correctly. And out of these stable branches, we create RCs, and we create as many RCs as necessary and go with the dance of pick into stable. Then once the stable branch is ready, tag. Once we tag, we deploy to staging. And then we do QA. And then when the QA is done, we move to Canary. And then finally, if everything is correct, go to production. And this gets repeated over and over again up until the 22nd, right? So a couple of problems with this approach is that this is all very time consuming. Like it takes a lot of manual actions, even though we automated a lot of things. Just the visibility of which RC goes when and so on is really complex, like no one understands or follows. And also we have a very slow turnaround time, because if something does fail on this step, so Canary, we need to repeat this whole thing again, and it takes us, actually, how much does an RC take us to make? So say that we picked something into stable branches. We have tests that run 2 hours in CE.
I would say about a day.
About a day.
Yeah, that was.
So CE tests, 2 hours with failures, with retries and so on, right? And then merge CE into EE.
Yeah, we usually do that sort of right away, so it's not like we wait for CE to pass then merge, like we merge, at least I did in the past, just merge both, so they kind of run in parallel.
So, doesn't matter, this is, let's say, 2-ish hours, right? Then we tag, which tags the release, which is, let's say, 1 hour to build the package and run all of that. And then we have staging deploy, which is 40 minutes these days?
Yeah, it's about, let's just say an hour.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Canary is negligible, it's like 10 minutes, right?
Canary deploys are like, 10, 20 minutes.
10 minutes, and then production deploys are nowadays 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours. Yeah.
2 hours, right? 2 hours.
But I think for the production already, you could, if we run stuff more in parallel, we could probably shave off quite a bit.
Yeah, we could.
So this is basically, I would say, like, this is not 2 hours. Usually this is at least 3 hours between CE, EE, and EE merge. Sorry, CE to EE merge. So this is some good 3 to 4 hours.
We're probably not watching it. That's only if we're
We're-
paying attention
yeah,
to it. If
Yeah,
distracted
we're
with
paying to,
something
yeah,
else.
exactly. So this is 5 workday.
Yeah, basically.
1 workday to create an RC. So this is really expensive. Any failure, anything that we notice there just takes a day. So I think also, like, one of the reasons why we are seeing these failures is because there is this like big turnaround time, right? Like if it's 1 day to actually see or change in any of the environments, known story. Continuous deployment is definitely more better.
Well, it compounds it, because if we have a build failure, then we have to fix it. Those fixes have to be validated in pipeline, and then we have to merge back in. That has to run a pipeline again.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, like, what do we want to do now? Let's talk about the transition period. So we want to do on the 7th of May, we want to get away from feature freeze.
Mhm.
So up until the 7th, we are going to use the same process as we have been doing so far. But on this date, we are going to turn on auto deploys.
Right.
So starting from this day, anything that you created up until 7th is accumulated, is going to be deployed in one of the first RCs or whatever else is, like let's say RC1. But then following from this day onward, we're going to go to the process of auto deploy branches. Only if I know how to write. So from this moment onward, best case scenario, we want to do hourly deploys. That's not going to happen right away.
Yeah.
So
That's the goal.
we are going to move to
Daily.
per week.
Oh, auto deploy is going to be, we create the branches on a weekly cadence,
Correct.
and then we deploy on a daily cadence,
Yeah.
maybe every
Yeah.
6 hours.
Yeah.
That would be
Agreed.
what we start with.
But I want to call this auto deploy weekly branch, right? Like this is the important part. So
Mhm.
everything that we do is going to be based on this branch.
Mhm.
So we're basically going for the same model with the stable branches, but only with a bit faster cycles. So per week to ensure that we can like iron out all the kinks. So basically, on Sunday, this is going to be automatically created, and this branch is going to go for a green commit. So last green commit that is on master. Last green commit from master, that is automatically going to be deployed to staging. We're going to have people check staging as part of their regular flows. I think we will probably want to also change the definition of done. Our definition of done in development currently does not state that you need to see through your changes through the environments.
Yeah, it's sort of implicitly as where it says something like definition of done or something does not include a broken feature, but it's implicit. I brought this up in the past, and that was the response I got.
Well, I'm going to make it explicit.
No, I fully agree.
Because now we've grown, and I don't think anything implicit works anymore.
Yeah.
So, basically, any change that you made in master, you will need to verify also in staging in any other environment. Any failure that you observe, you're going to use the regular flow. You create a merge request. You apply pick into label. Whatever the release number is, and this is going to be automatically picked, right? Like we are building an automated system where every hour we're going to like see, check any merge requests that have this label. We're going to add that to the auto deploy branch. We're going to try and tag that and deploy it within the next 6 hours, right? And go again directly to staging. So when we accumulated enough changes and when we verified enough staging, so we are targeting maybe 2 to 3 days of things staying in staging, we're going to go to Canary. Now this is scary because Canary is production, right? So if we see any breakage there, we'll have to do a lot of alerts and so on. But what's making this less scary is that we have a kill switch for Canary these days. So at any point we can just kill it and say, all right, no one is using it. But what we'll want to do is we want to make sure that anything that goes on Canary is fixed quick, because we want to have Canary enabled as much as possible, right? Because if your change broke something, there are 10 other changes that people are bringing into the environment. We want to verify that their changes are also working. And anything we notice in Canary that is broken, will follow the same process. It needs to target master, like the merge request needs to target master, it needs to have a label applied, and it's going to be auto deployed to staging, right? So once your thing gets fixed, it will get to Canary as well eventually, basically. And when we are certain that, as certain as you can be, right?
Yeah.
That thing is fine, we are going to deploy to production. Now, the question is, what happens when we deploy to production and we see that something is broken? Well, first of all, we are going to start using the hot patcher a bit more frequently if it really arrived to production and it really impacts a lot of users. Hot patcher is one thing. Now, the hot patcher is seriously like it is the final resort, but we need to leverage it a bit more. This means if something arrived at the hot patcher, that is always P1, S1. Yeah. Like there are no other levels here for this item, and that means that any work that you've been doing so far does not matter because we have something hot patch in production. You need to handle it right away. The hot patcher in production needs to obviously be applied on staging in Canary as well, right, Jar? Yeah. We need to test it all over there. Yes. Here's the problem. When you actually fix the thing and that thing gets picked into the auto-deploy branches, how do we ensure that we roll back the staging hot patch to deploy that thing automatically without actual manual intervention?
It would have a new version applied to it when it gets tagged, right?
Right, but we are targeting also that all hot patch, like the hot patcher is not going to be dependent on version anymore. If we are auto-deploying, we don't have a tag anymore.
Could you make it dependent on the branch, so your branch becomes the tag, basically?
Right, but what happens if this is like a stable branch for that week? So that means even if you fix it...
Oh yeah. Well, so, what you probably, if that's at all possible, you could do is make the patcher so that when it tries to apply an already applied patch, it doesn't fill, it just ignores it. I believe there is an option in the patch.
It is already like it won't apply the same patch twice.
We should just be
and it is fairly like we could loosen the version constraint and it can just do the dry run and see if it applies, and if it can apply, just go for it. But what I was originally thinking here was that the patches wouldn't live past a deployment, and that once you go to the next deployment, we would actually pick the change in the hot patch, and if it's a security fix, then it would look for, remember we said like this unreleased label?
Yep.
So we would, if there was a patch that was a security fix that can't be disclosed, we would have a label that says unreleased, and then the picker would actually try to pick that change before it does the next auto deployment. Mm-hmm. So the hot patcher would then only be used for emergency cases where we need to stop the bleeding immediately, but it would never live past the current deployment.
Right, but my point here is this is applied to production in all of the other environments at the moment, right? Developer is working on their merge request and fixing it.
Yeah.
It gets merged into master.
Yeah.
And it applied the pick into label.
Yes.
Our auto picker gets it into the auto deploy branch.
Yes.
And we trigger a deploy to staging. Mm-hmm. What do we do here? Like, do we roll back the patch that is already applied to staging?
Well, it depends. I guess if the patch added a new file, then it has to, because the package reinstall won't remove files that are added. And we had this, so yeah, so I think you could try to just roll back all of the applied patches. I think the patcher can just do that now without an issue.
So I think I brought this up in the past, and this might be too much for this. We currently deploy essentially into the same directory because we install the omnibus package in the same place. Would it be possible to install it in a specific directory and say we could?
Like,
I think that would be.
Put it so that's how people used to.
I think
do
this would be a huge
Capistrano,
disruption
like-
to Omnibus,
No,
but
yeah.
it is possible. I've actually done similar things where you have the, every time you install the package, it puts it into a version directory, and then you have a symlink to current.
Right, yeah, yeah. basically
And then you keep versions, but I don't think.
I would rather find a way.
Right.
How do we actually handle this situation, even if it means a manual thing? Because I want to get away from omnibus deploys.
See,
This is the.
so once you apply a hot patch, just to be clear, once you apply a hot patch, the next deployment actually, it always rolls back the patch. Like,
Okay.
automatically. It looks to see what version is on the box. Okay, that version, is there a patch? Yes, I'm gonna roll it back. Then I'm gonna upgrade, and then I'm going to apply any new patches.
All right.
It does this automatically, so I think
All right.
I think there's not much to do here.
Not much to do.
Yeah.
All right, good.
I have an interview in 4 minutes, by the way.
All right, sounds good. Basically, we need to create an automation that will create these branches automatically,
Mhm.
get the green pipeline from master, so that it can actually create that branch from,
Mhm.
and the auto picker that will do this everything unattended and connect all of those things so that this flow goes automatically.
Yeah.
And this is what we've been discussing, how this is going to look in details. So in the release tools project, we'll have the auto deploy task that will create the branches every week. The branches are going to be named this way, and they're going to be synced across EE, Omnibus, and the deployer.
Mhm.
The reason for that is Omnibus needs to be able to use the same process as GitLab EE. They also depend on each other with assets and so on. The deployer needs the same thing because we might need changes inside of the deployer per deployment cycle as well. The picker is going to look for a specific label, and that label is going to be named. How did you name it, Jarv? Where was it? Pick underscore branch. No, we decided to call it auto deploy. Auto deploy branch.
Yeah,
This one.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's a variable, not a label.
That's a variable.
That's a
sorry,
label, yeah.
that's a variable. You're right. And that is going to be set automatically using the auto deployer with
The variables API.
yeah variables API. With what did I say here? All right. The picker will automatically the auto deploy will automatically look for green pipeline and then trigger the build in Omnibus, which will transfer the version, right? Like start creating the package. Once the package is done, it's going to shift the version as well to the deployer pipeline. And we are going to add to the deployer pipeline a check for what was previously deployed, the old version. And we have the new version because we are just adding it. Deployer is going to deploy to staging. And because we have these two versions that we can transfer, we're going to automatically create a QA issue that we currently have as well. And this allows us to also achieve some compliance as well, where all changes need to be noted down and verified before they go to production.
Did we figure out how we're going to obtain the current version? Because we
Yes.
discussed that, Robin and I, in the issue. There's a bit of some options, but it was
Deployer knows this all information already because it needs, in addition, in the Ansible plans, to just before starting a deploy, it already knows, it already has access to what was deployed, so it can actually parse.
Right,
That was basically our plan on that issue, and I don't know why it didn't work.
So the problem is because we have a bunch of jobs in this pipeline, and the idea we have is that we expose the version as a CI artifact, so it's
Oh, right.
it's in, you can grab it. The problem is that then in every job in between you have to add
You have to
that
pass it.
artifact as its dependency.
Hi, how are you?
So you get something like 20 jobs and say, oh, it depends
I'm
on
doing
these
well.
artifacts.
I apologize in advance.